Hi, Robert.
Hi.
I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you so much for joining me today on Michelle's Conversations That Matter.
And Michelle, I really appreciate it. It's an honor. So, I'm glad to be here and, hopefully I can help some people who are watching.
I think you will. And I'm so grateful. We had the pleasure of meeting through a networking group. And the moment that I met you, I was like, this guy's awesome. I have got to share him with my audience. Like, he's awesome. So when I reached out and you said yes, I was so excited. So today, we're going to talk about men's mental health, specifically in the African-American community, and then overcoming adversity, because you have had your share of adversity, and I think we can all learn from that. But as you said before we came on the air, you've also been very blessed. And so there's a lot we have to cover today. But before we dive in, just a little bit about the series. So Michelle's Conversations That Matter is a platform that I really was out to create to elevate and amplify the conversation about mental health. I really think that through conversation and open storytelling, people telling stories like you, and even clinicians helping us to better understand mental health, we can do our part to remove stigma. So that's why I created the series. And what I do professionally is I get to work with organizations to recenter their employees and really preserve their well-being. We're living in such a hard time. So that's my goal, is to really help people feel good and preserve their mental health. So let's go ahead and dive in and start to just get to know you. I want people to know who you are. So take a second, if you will, to just let us know who you are, where you live, and what you do for a living.
Okay. All right. So normally when I explain this, they're like, oh man, you're into a lot of stuff, but not really, but my name's Robert Grant. I'm a serial entrepreneur. So, I run a few businesses, but how I got into that is through the music business. But prior to all of that, I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and then right out of high school, went in the military. And then I went overseas for a couple of years, and then I came back, and then, I traveled all over through the East Coast, and then eventually became bi-coastal. And, I lived a lot of different places. And, I lived in LA and I lived in New York City. And, of course, I'm from Boston, but I lived in Brooklyn for a few years, and then I moved up to Buffalo. So I've been here in Buffalo for the past, I'll say, almost 13, 14 years.
And you are a serial entrepreneur. You shared that with me. My head was spinning when I heard about everything you're involved in, and it's so cool. So tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
So I started my own label, independent label, in 2004 with a friend of mine. He's still a really good friend of mine. He's kind of like my business manager, consultant. His name's Francis Fawn. We met in Boston almost like over 20 years ago through my sister. Because my sister is an artist too. She does like a lot of disco and house. So she was recording with him. So, I'm going to be totally raw and honest with everybody. So when I got out the military, I still had like a hustler's mentality. I was still kind of had the street mentality. And, 9 months after I got out the military, I got locked up for 3.5 years. So that's kind of like going backwards, right?
Yeah.
I had to sit down for 3.5 years. So while I was there, I compiled over 350 songs I wrote. And, I just did not want to get back into that position again. So at the time, I was talking to my family, and my sister's like, Rob, when you get home, I want to introduce you to Francis. I think you guys would be a good mix. So met Francis. I was late, and he was like, bro, like, I don't play this, man. Like, you gotta be on time. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna come see me. Right. So I was like, okay. And then we finally, we got together and we started to record, and then he started to see how we would mesh. And then I got signed to a independent label in Rhode Island when we were working together, and then that didn't go well. And then said, you know what? After I seen how the label was run, because I was paying attention, I was like, we can do this on our own. So, everyone always said, Robert, my nickname's Red. Everyone would call me Red. So they was like, Red's always on his grind. He's on his grind. So I said, I think the name of the label should be Stay Grinding Inc., because we're always on our grind. And it just resonated with both of us. And then we was like, yeah, that's it, man. And then got the logo made, and it's a classic logo. Like it blends with all the other corporate and all the other, big logos. And that's how I started. I started independent with independent label. And then, then I had some friends that I was incarcerated with. And then when I got out, they were doing their own thing as well. But I would tour with this company called Hot Import Nights, where it was like all the car shows, like, everyone would do shows and all the exotic cars and all that stuff. Everyone, will come to like the expo center to look at all the, tricked out cars and stuff like that. I'm putting age on myself because this is when like, Pimp My Ride and all that stuff was a big deal, So I would tour with Hot Import Nights and do shows. And then, my ex-partner, he seen me. He's like, bro, I remember everything you was telling me while you was locked up. Like, you're doing it. Like I was on radio within 6-7 months when I got out, when I got out of jail. So everyone was like, yo, man, you did exactly what you said you was going to do. And then he came to me and was like, yo, I want to invest. So, and from there, things started to take off and started to go back and forth to New York. And then I met my publicist at that time. She was Jay-Z's publicist. She was Jay-Z's publicist for 20 years, but she grew up with Jay-Z and Marcy Project. And she helped build Rockefeller. Her name was Tanya Payton. A lot of people didn't really know who she was, but she was heavily, she had a lot of power in the music industry as a publicist. She had a lot of connections. And a lot of people think sometimes you need, just because you don't know someone doesn't mean they can't do something for you. So that was a lesson that was taught for me too. Like I was like, people would try to send me to these PR firms or, these big PR people, and they didn't have the connections. They just took your money and did a couple things for you. Like she was truly connected. So from there, I did a press junket in Puerto Rico, all the chief editors and everyone you can imagine who's successful right now in like the publication game and radio. There were a lot. They came to my press junket. But so after that all happened, I had some creative differences with my partner, and we ended up going separate ways. And then I started to learn about the business side of it, music publishing. Yeah. So from Stay Grinding Inc., which is the artist development, I do more artist development, business development for artists, not management stuff, because nothing against artists, because I'm an artist myself, but their mind got to be right. If they want to make it in the business or they want to listen. Like, I'm not saying that everyone has to listen to what I have to say, but I've had some trials and tribulations, and I can set the foundation for them so they can, do things the right way.
Right.
So from there, I started to go to LA to go to ASCAP conventions, because that's how artists make a lot of their money, through licensing and for TV and film. So I started to go there and meet people in that world. And then I started my own publishing company, because I said I can do what they're doing. So I just hired a bunch of producers to work for me and show artists how to make money in the music publishing and licensing side. So then I created Stay Grinding Music. Wow. So I have Stay Grinding Inc., then I have Stay Grinding Music, right?
So awesome.
Then during the pandemic, I'm just kind of jumping. We're going to go back and forth. After that, the pandemic hit. So I was like, I always wanted to throw out the clothing line. So I was like, let me throw out a clothing line just to see what people like and what they don't like. So during the pandemic, I launched Stay Grinding Clothing. It lay dormant for about 6 years, because I was working with someone before, but it ended up not working out, because, it's very difficult to be successful if you don't have the right team, and that's really important. Everyone has to be on the same page, and people can't have egos. They have to want you to win.
Yeah.
So once you win as an artist, your whole team wins. So everyone has to understand there's a common goal. And I think that's what happens with a lot of artists that are not successful. They don't have the right team around them, right mechanics around them.
It's so true.
Yeah. So then I launched Stay Grinding Clothing. So, I'm selling pieces like crazy. I'm not really even promoting it. I'm just putting stuff out there organically, because people love the mission statement for Stay Grinding Clothing. It's not just not the clothing line. It's a way of life. For those who strive to succeed and accomplish their goals, it doesn't matter how big or small those goals are. So that's what my Stay Grinding mission statement and culture represents.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. I love that it's so tangible, and it's for everyone at whatever they're grinding at, It's really cool. When we talked, you said that you described yourself as a disruptor who wants to lead by example. Right. Tell us more about that.
Okay. Well, I definitely, since I moved to Buffalo, I feel maybe not, I don't know, but I feel like I've been disrupting a lot of things. So they say Buffalo is the ranked number 7 for the most segregated um state with communities, like, like black, white, it was like super segregated.
Right.
Now, growing up in Boston, everyone asks me, he's like, Rob, isn't Boston like, is there a lot of black people there? Or isn't Boston like super racist? And I was just like, okay, well, like, what's the difference in any other city? There's no difference. Like, we, as African Americans, we have to deal with the same thing across the whole country.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a unique time in Boston, and I grew up around a lot of different cultures. A lot of people I don't know if people have ever been to Boston who haven't been to Boston. There's a lot of culture there. They just don't promote it. I tell a lot of people from Boston, they said, you don't sound like you're from Boston. And I was like, well, I'm not from like the New Kids on the Block, Boston. I'm from the Bobby Brown, Boston, So, my accent is not heavy, it's thick. It might come out once in a while. And so I tell them that. So, I've been around so much culture, so when I came to Buffalo, I would just go to places, and try to meet people in, Clarence or these, suburban areas.
Yeah.
I did live in the suburbs. Like when I moved out of Dorchester, I went to junior high school in the suburbs, and I grew up in a predominantly Jewish community from there on. But then a lot of the people from the urban community started moving out to the suburbs because, create a better lifestyle, for their kids, so they can have an advantage to, succeed in life. So I got a lot of different cultures that I've been around. So when I started coming here, I was just going to places and they were just like, where are you from? Because we know you're not from here. So as a disruptor, I wanted to show people that no matter where you come from or whatever race you are, you can accomplish things and you can connect with the right people. And I had to do it by leading by example, because they'll be like, yeah, all right, whatever, bro. Like, yeah, all right, we'll see. And I was like, okay, we'll see,
Yeah.
So that's what I mean, lead by example. Like, I have to lead by example. I can't tell people how to do something and then I'm not doing it. Like, I can't tell someone can't tell me how to make $1 million if they don't have it. Right.
Exactly.
So I just try to lead by example, put it that way.
Yeah. It's awesome. I love already how vulnerable you're being. I mean, thanks for sharing everything that you're sharing.
Yeah.
But I have to ask the questions about music, right? Like, let's talk about your music. Let's talk about God, you wrote all those songs. And then, so tell us about the journey of your music and even who you were surrounded by that influenced you.
Well, my music is like, I would say it's kind of reality rap. But it's fused with a lot of different genres because I am a saxophone player. I'm a true musician, and I grew up playing the saxophone. Like, I was in a jazz band, I was in a marching band, and I played the saxophone. I played different styles of saxophones. Like, when I was in marching band, I played the baritone, and then when I was in jazz band, I played the tenor sax, and then when I just did regular band for school, I played the soprano and the alto. So that allowed me to appreciate music. So I'm just a constant learner of music and a student of music. So I like to fuse, rap, hip hop with jazz, R&B, rock. So it's a fusion of all those types of music, like EDM, pop, electronic. So it's a fusion of everything. And I feel like that's what makes me unique. I used to want to just be an underground rapper, a backpack rapper back in the day. And I think wanting to be more of fit into a certain group and crowd, that's what I wanted to do. But then again, I realized years later, that what made me unique was they were jealous about the fact that that's what I was so unique. Like, they have a ceiling. I didn't have a ceiling, So I'm at the point now where I realize it's a asset for me to be that way than not to be that way. So I would say my music is like kind of reality rap, things I experienced in life, and or things that I've seen. So I do a lot of that for TV and film. I a lot of things I experienced or I've seen other people do. I put it into a story mode for like TV and film stuff. My stuff is really cinematic now.
Mm-hmm. And before we came on the air, you were mentioning, you were just just dropping artists.
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah. So I'm sorry.
You're very
Yeah.
connected. You're very connected, and you were highly influenced. So let's just start there.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I did. Yeah, I grew up in a unique time. So like at the time, like I grew up around a lot of people from Boston that were successful. Like you got New Kids on the Block, you got New Edition, you had like the other rap groups, RSO. You got Raven Zeno. They created the Source magazine with Dave Mays. So I was surrounded. I was young though when I was really young when it was happening. Ed OG as well. Ed OG is a staple in the Boston community. I got a single with him called Fallback, so you guys can check that out. Ed OG and Omega Red. And Big Shug, I work with Big Shug too. He's from the Gangstar Foundation. Gangstar was with Guru and DJ Premier. And I collaborated with those artists as well. And, my aunt was Donna Summer. So I got to work with her real closely before she passed away. But when I was younger, I really wasn't paying attention to her like that. But then as I got deeper into the music industry, I was like, wow, okay. I seen how people were reacting to her. So I'm like, okay, yeah, she's the real deal. And I just worked on my craft until it got to the time where it was time for us to work together. And I made a name for myself. Like a lot of people didn't know she was my aunt. I was just, moving my way up in the ranks in the music industry. And so it just got to the point where, I made a name big enough for myself and she took notice. And not because I made a name for myself, but she's respected me for the fact that I never asked her for help. Yeah. But when people got wind of I was related to her, then, of course they were approaching me and wanted to do like interviews and stuff like that. And wanted to know what it was like, having a legend for an aunt. And, it got me a lot of press. I was on the front page of the Boston Globe and stuff like that. They're like, can we talk to your aunt? And I was just like, oh boy, here we go. You want to talk to my aunt, but my aunt was cool about it. Like, she was like, Rob, no, you changed your life. You turned your life around. I see what you're doing. And, you're a true hustler, and you're the true G, you made a way for yourself. And she had a similar experience, not like, but really young. She just, a leap of faith. She just moved to New York City and she tried out for air. And then she was in Germany. Like she went down there with $10. She told me, I only had $10 in my name. So she had insane faith and confidence and she trusted her faith, what got her to where it was. And I just try to replicate that, like to have faith and confidence, in myself. And, people will try to knock you down, and it's not because of, it's not you, it's them, it's their insecurities and their failures they try to project on you.
So true. So true. We've talked a little bit about some of the adversity that shaped you, right? We talked about that a little earlier, but they say adversity is really what sort of reveals who we really are, right?
Yes.
So, and I know when we met earlier, we were talking about some of the challenges that you've had. So what other experiences could you share that really you think are those pivotal moments that shaped you?
Well, growing up, I would say there was, I don't know, when I was growing up, I just felt like I was kind of teased and bullied, and it drove it at one point, it just drove me to just prove everybody wrong of what they thought of me, so that was hard back then. Like when you're a kid, like kids can be really mean. Like, so, I'm sitting at lunch and then all of a sudden, the kids are like 1, 2, 3, and then they all get up and move to the table. And then I'm sitting at the table by myself, So, like I had to deal with a lot of that growing up. But what I come to realize is just that, when you're different and you're talented and you're gifted, like, and people don't have that, like those are the popular kids, right? The popular kids who want to make it seem like you're not cool. Right. So, they're the ones with they're the ones with the issues, not me. Yeah. I was surrounded by my parents. They were loving, like they were struggling middle class. They got me to a point where they can, help me get, further, have a better life and put me in a better situation. But they were struggling middle class like everyone else. Right. And, they did their best to try to, give their kids, a one up.
Right.
And a lot of people I was around, they didn't have their mother or father, and they were, I feel like the way they were acting, it was called lashing out, because of that, Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's some of the adversity I've been through as a child. And then, as I got older, we talked about, being incarcerated, that's the ultimate adversity,
Seriously.
So, being incarcerated and then watching people come in and come back out, you know, and I'm sitting there for, you know, a few years.
Right.
You know, I was like, I don't ever want to see this place again. So I was
Exactly.
trying to understand the psyche of a person who kept coming back. Like, you know, like, why would they keep coming back here? And, you know, I understand, like, some of them, this is all they know, and they don't
Yeah.
think there's another way, you know? And then, you know, just, you know, sometimes you have adversity with family members, you know, people close to you that are making you seem like you can't do stuff, you know, and, or being jealous because of
Right.
your doing things, you know, and I deal with that too, you know, like, you know, my aunt warned me about a lot of things. And then when I started seeing things starting to like materialize, then I see how some family members were acting too. So learning how to deal with that as well, you
Right.
know? Yeah. And then, you know, we didn't talk about my business, the corporate side of the things, as far as like the payment processing, but just self-belief, and understanding, vision. Like when I started my company, there weren't people like me, African-American, doing payment processing. You know, I did work for a lot of, payment processing, 500 Fortune payment processing companies before I went independent. I experienced a lot of, systematic racism. You know, a lot of the partnerships and relationships were given to, you know, other people than people of color. So I felt like I had to work twice as hard. And they're like, "Oh, don't worry about that, Rob. Don't worry about the racism. Don't worry about that." You know, and you know, I don't show people that. I don't like to complain. You know,
Yeah.
I just like to get things done.
Yeah.
But so people think, "Oh, it's easy for you, Rob. You don't have to worry about that." Like, you know, but no, they don't know. It's like the iceberg. They don't see everything that I'm going through and the stuff that I'm dealing with to get to that point.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
Then after, you know, especially when the pandemic hit, and then all the news was going on about talking about systematic racism, redlining, and what's going on. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, we didn't know this is going on." I'm like, really? Like, Rob, did you? Like, yes, I know what's going on. Like, yeah, I deal with this all the time. So I think what I probably should have done more was express my feelings more. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's here now. So like the platform's here to do it. So I want to make sure I'm able to express my feelings so people can relate. Because I know a lot of people feel what I'm feeling and going through what I go through. Because there's levels, you know, different levels, different devils.
Yeah. 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 I created this platform to really elevate the conversation around mental health. So I'd like to start to like sort of move into that direction because I think it's important. And I'm going to encourage anyone who's watching to share this with people around you because it could actually help someone who might be suffering. So when I looked at the data, I went to NAMI.org, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And despite the needs, they say that only 1 in 3 Black adults who need mental health care actually receive it. And that's just so upsetting. And then you factor in the barriers to care and all of those things. I want to know your opinion on that. But first, I really want to hear your story around mental health and sort of what your challenges were and how did you navigate that in case someone's listening and they know someone who might be struggling.
I'm still trying to navigate.
But,
you know,
I'm sure.
You know, so man, a lot of things stem from childhood, and I think sometimes, or like growing up, right? Them are the moments where you're being molded, right? Certain things are happening to you growing up, and you know, you eat 2 things. Like I've seen 2 things. Like people, they let what happens from their childhood, or they hold the resentment, and they don't flourish the way they should because they're allowing the past, you know, cripple them, right? Then you have the ones who like, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna prove everyone wrong, and then when they're successful or whatever, like they're being nasty to the people who prove them wrong, you know. And it's just like, I'm like, listen, you can't really look at that because everyone was young, everyone, you know, everyone can't see a vision, you know, so you can't get mad at people who don't see a vision. So what I had a lot of pain, you know, I had a lot of abuse growing up as well, in a lot of stuff wasn't dealt with. A lot of that stuff wasn't dealt with, you know. So what I eventually had to do, you know, because you know, I don't drink anymore. I don't drink liquor anymore. But when I would drink excessively. Now I wouldn't drink it like every day or whatever, but when I did drink, I would drink excessively to like numb those feelings. So I had to stop drinking. And then, you know, I started talking to a psychotherapist because I had a lot of trauma in my life. I mean, I had like really close people, like two of my best friends passed away within 7 month span. Then my aunt, Donna Summer, she passed away too that year, you know, and then, you know, I had some other issues. So all this stuff I wasn't really dealing with. So I was using alcohol to deal with that. And I had eventually, you know, I eventually stopped drinking and, you know, started to go see a psychotherapist to talk all this stuff out. You know,
how has that helped you? And I guess, you know, coming from you, you know, there's so much trepidation around reaching out and getting support, right? A lot of us think, you know, especially times like now with COVID, right? Like, well, everyone's dealing with something. Who am I to complain? How did it help you? And how do you feel about, you know, being honest about the fact that you get care?
well, one thing, my family, like they definitely like, Rob, you got some issues with the drinking. Like, you know, they'd be like, Rob, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? So I was, you know, so that was one, like my family definitely was, they don't hold their tongue. So that was one thing. But then when you're in a session, you know, like I'm being honest with you, like not every, you got to find the right like psychotherapist or therapist. You got to find the right one because like I went to a few of them and it just seemed like they couldn't relate. And like when I was starting to tell my story, they was just like, "Oh my God, they're taking notes." Like, you know, like I was a, you know, like I'm a special case, you know. And I just wanted to, I wanted to make sure I was talking to a psychotherapist or a therapist that kind of could relate to me.
Yeah.
So I found one that could relate to me, and that was amazing because then we could share stories that are similar, you know, and they can give me advice or just give me a different outlook of how I should react to certain things. You know, emotional intelligence is very important as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. So how are you doing? I know you said you still navigate. I mean, I'll own it. I'm still in therapy. I mean, this has not been the easiest, you know, how many months of this crazy pandemic, but like, what are some of the things you do to help yourself?
Well, I go to the gym now too. So I go to the gym and I work out faithfully. That helps me. And then I'm about to start boxing again too. I used to box when I was young. My father was a Golden Glove boxer as well. And I feel like the physical stuff really relieves a lot of stress, you know, because stress, that causes a lot of pain on people. You know, stress will do you in if you don't handle it.
Yeah.
You know, some people deal with it differently. So find a way to relieve that stress and get a clear mind. I feel like once I get up and I go to the gym or I work out, it clears my mind and keeps me focused and keeps me motivated.
Awesome. I love that. I do love that. There's something about movement in your physical body that helps your brain. And I think that's great advice. So what advice would you give about, like, suppose someone's listening and they're like, they have trepidation around reaching a therapist. I mean, you already said it. It's important to find the right therapist. But do you have any advice for like someone out there who's watching, who's like, yeah, I don't know. What wisdom do you have? What did it take for you, aside from your family shaming you and saying,
right?
Like, what advice would you give them?
All right. So this is my advice. Okay. Don't be afraid. Like, I know it's hard to like be open, but if you really want to see change, you have to have a conversation with somebody. All right. So don't be afraid to be open. I know it's hard because we all, especially as African American men, we always want to act like we're tough and nothing affects us and we got no feelings. And you know, we can be that way, but deep down inside, it's really hurt, insecurities or fear of, you know, being exposed as being weak. But I don't see that as weakness anymore. I see that as strength, you know? So, if you want, you know, I mean, just talk to a friend. Like, just if you have issues talking to a therapist, just talk to a friend and tell them how you really feel.
Yeah.
You know, at one point, and then work towards trying to talk to a therapist, or just go visit a couple of them just to see how it is. You don't even know what it's like unless you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
amen.
I'm doing it. So
yeah. So
why not try it?
Yeah, I love that. So here's always the trip, because you know us women, we want to fix everything.
Right.
And us women want to set up the appointment and send them on their merry way.
Yeah. That's another.
That doesn't ever work. That doesn't never works, right? So what advice do you have for the women? So this is important. What advice do you have for the women who know that their loved one is struggling? Like, how do we show up for them?
I mean, that's tough because, it's really, at the end of the day, it's really up to the man that, but I think what the women should do is try to surround them around people who are going through the same thing, that's actually taking those initial steps of going to therapy and stuff like that. And trying to encourage their man that it is okay. Like, you make them feel comfortable with being weak and being exposed. That's I think that's a key in love.
Yeah. Love.
Yeah. Love and understanding. So just having conversations, like seeing how they really actually feel.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not gonna, sometimes you can't change people's mind and change how they think. And that's sad, but it is what it is. But I noticed once you put people in a loving environment and people care and they see that, things change for the better.
I had a therapist once tell us in another interview I did, as a woman, encouraging your loved one, your man, to be with his friends. You said it. You said, if you don't feel comfortable talking to a therapist, talk to someone that you trust, a buddy, a friend. So she was like, encourage them to just go and be with their friends, like spending time with their friends. Maybe they'll connect with them. And that's a gift for them to be able to talk to their friends.
The good friends, though, not the bad ones, not the ones that aren't doing stuff, the ones who are like actually doing things. And, because, like they say, birds of a feather flock together. So I just try to be around as many successful people as possible and learn from them and understand, like, okay, what are you going through? What did happen to you to get you to this point? And people who are level headed, so like, don't go to a friend who's a mess. Yeah. Go to a friend who got a sound mind and, got things stable.
Yeah. I think we know who they are, right?
Yeah. They know.
and your partner or your girlfriend's going to know, right?
Exactly.
Like, no, you should hang out with that one, not that one.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, we have to want to do this.
Yeah.
Sure. They have to want to do this. They got to want to take the leap of faith and try to figure out their mental state and their emotional intelligence. And if they want to make a change, that's, at the end of the day, they have to want to make that change.
How has therapy helped you personally?
It helped me work out a lot of different issues as far as like, self-belief, doubt, not have to use other substances to block my pain, trusting the process, like what those feelings are and where they stem from, Yeah,
that's amazing. That's great. And that's what you want for everyone who might be suffering. So that's great. Yeah. You said to me that it takes a village. Tell us a little bit about why your family and your faith have been so important to you and what they've provided to you.
All right, I'm gonna give you an example, right? So my father, this is when I got incarcerated, and my father, he put up the house to bail me out, and he was like, he looked at me, he was like, now you got no friends. So, when I was running the streets, I was helping a lot of people out, I was taking care of a lot of people, and then when the crap hit the fan, like everyone was gone, and who was there? My immediate family, my sisters, my mom, my dad, and I feel like, if it wasn't for them, like, I'd probably be in a different situation right now when I was being crazy and wilding out and doing all this crazy stuff. No matter what, my family was always there. Every mistake I ever made, my family was there to help and support me. So it takes a village. Like, my daughter, my oldest daughter, she gave up to custody to Florida, where my ex-wife, and I had to fight to get her back, get custody of her. My family helped me with that. They helped me raise, my oldest daughter. So, it takes a village. That's why I'm saying that, because they were always been there for me, so, no matter what. So I believe, family is everything,
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. So true. And when we isolate, it's just so dangerous when we isolate ourselves and like withhold ourselves from the love that is around us, So I think that's so important. So what else? Do you have anything else you want to share? Any messages out that you want to get out to other men who might be watching?
Yes. I love you. And we all need to unite. We all need to work together. We all need to collaborate. You know, collaboration is key. Us as Black African American men, we got to do better at that. You know, put our egos aside, okay? And let's really help each other grow. Because if we do that, we'll be unstoppable.
That's amazing. Beautiful. Beautiful. So now what's up? What's up next for you? I mean, the clothing line, the music. I can't.
I'm gonna be shooting a pilot TV show. Let me see what's the name of it. I don't know if I shouldn't. I don't know if I want to name it. I don't want to give it off. But it's a pilot, and it's gonna be produced by Skovu TV. They did a segment on me. It's called How I Came Up, and you can find it on my YouTube page.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the next thing, you know. So, you know, I'm getting back into the acting game. I did a couple of movies, you know, years ago. I was in Shutter Island. I did this other one called Highway 420. It was Lionsgate film with Lil Duval and Devin the Dude and Eddie Griffin. And then I did an indie film like when I was in Boston years ago. It was called Void Rage. But so acting's always been a challenge for me. So, you know, I love Phil Davis. He's the producer and the writer. He makes me feel real comfortable. It's, you know, I want to be in a loving environment space to, you know, be able to perform the way I want to perform. So we just have a great connection. So we're going to do this pilot. I'm going to do this pilot and, you know, see where it goes.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome. I love it. And the best way people can connect with you, follow you on social.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is go to my website. I mean, I'm on all social media, so it's either Robert Omega Red Grant or just, you know, Omega Red. And most people follow me on IG, so my IG is Omega Red Superfan. All you have to do is type in Omega Red. I'll pop right up. If you got any questions, you want to reach out to me, I'll reach back out to you. So
awesome. Rob, thank you so much for giving me some of your time on this afternoon.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Michelle.
I mean, I love what you shared. I think your message is so important. And kudos to you for all that you've overcome and the perseverance and just the leadership that you're showing the world and who you are. I think it's really great. And thanks for sharing your story.
Anytime I'm you know, you need me to come back again, I'll come back again. So, you know, and I'm definitely gonna let people know about your platform and your brand. And I appreciate it. And giving me this platform to talk about this stuff. You know, it means a lot.
You are so welcome. All right, my friend. I will be in touch with you.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.